Kanye's Yeezy brand is sitting at an important crossroads. When we look at what happens next for one of the most profitable and beloved streetwear brands of the last 10 years, there are far more questions than answers. Kanye has burned more or less every bridge that was previously available to him with hateful words and public attacks against his peers, to the point where he lost almost all of the business deals that made Yeezy possible in the first place. With the shoes being pulled from shelves in stores and contracts being canceled, the Yeezy brand is at rock bottom. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Yeezy's story is over. Kanye may very well be able to turn his current situation into a sense of freedom rather than exile. So is Yeezy going to struggle and fade away without those resources that made it possible in the first place, like its manufacturing and marketing deals with Adidas, Balenciaga, and Gap? Or could Kanye possibly turn his corporate cancellation into a new opportunity and save the brand with no creative or professional restraints at all? The question I'm asking is simple. What is the future of Yeezy? Before we can understand the future of Yeezy, the first thing we have to do is take a quick look at the past, because Kanye's fashion career has gone through countless ups and downs over the last 10 years. From being basically shut out of the industry 10 years ago and slowly struggling to build that billion-dollar empire with Yeezy, to potentially losing it all over his anti-Semitic statements, Kanye was already one of the most volatile yet innovative figures in modern fashion. But Ye now finds himself in a space he's never occupied before after losing all of his former allies, including Adidas, Gap, and Balenciaga. Even before his recent controversy, Kanye has seemed like he was at a breaking point for a long time. He's been consistently arguing in public with many of the corporate giants who had backed his empire. He had already announced that he was parting ways with Gap, and he was floating the idea of cutting ties with Adidas, the company that made him a billionaire in the first place. And looking back at Kanye's career, he's always had problems with business partners and investors who got in the way of his creative vision. And now it seems like Ye has reached a crossroads where he can either retract his statements and attempt to apologize, or continue on the independent route and try and rebuild his empire alone. Here's a look at the history and the possible future of Yeezy. Kanye's recent downward spiral began on October 3rd, 2022, during the Yeezy Season 9 fashion show in Paris, where he debuted a shirt with the slogan "White Lives Matter" printed on the back. And if that wasn't controversial enough, it was only made worse by the presence of Candace Owens, a popular conservative media figure who's well known and well hated for her controversial statements about the death of George Floyd and many other contemporary issues. The controversy was immediate, as other artists and industry figures started speaking out against Kanye's White Lives Matter shirt in a matter of hours after the show happened in Paris. Diddy made a public statement where he showed support for Kanye, but at the same time said he didn't approve of the shirt, which Kanye didn't seem to appreciate, as he immediately posted the text exchange to Instagram, including text where he declared war on Diddy and claimed that he was going to use him as an example of what he could do to the Jewish people who are controlling him, among other bizarre threats. Ye was immediately called out for being anti-Semitic and had his account restricted on Instagram, but rather than backtracking or apologizing, he doubled down and put out a tweet where he said he was going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, which led him to be restricted on Twitter as well. Over the next few weeks, Kanye made numerous appearances on media outlets ranging from Fox News to CNN to Revolt, where he was challenged on his ideas, but ultimately refused to change his mind and continued to make controversial statements about Jewish people and even George Floyd. In less than a week's time, almost every company Kanye had a relationship with cut ties to him, including Vogue, Adidas, Gap, American Apparel, and Balenciaga. He was also unbanked by JP Morgan and lost many other opportunities, including a stadium show and a documentary that was actively in production. The damage was so bad that, according to Forbes, he lost $600 million of his net worth in one day and overall was no longer a billionaire. But despite the financial and professional consequences, there are some who claim that this was Kanye's plan the entire time, because even before the controversy, Kanye had been voicing his frustrations over his corporate partnerships for years, and he's long expressed an interest in going independent. So what comes next? Can Kanye turn things around and bring Yeezy back to life? And how did he get to this point in the first place? The most recent Kanye clothing venture and following controversy may have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeezy Gap, engineered by Balenciaga, was supposed to be his biggest project to date. In March of 2020, he announced that he wanted to make the perfect hoodie that would only cost $60. And later that same year, an announcement for an official collaboration between Yeezy and Gap caused the company's stock price to experience a major surge. But the working relationship between Kanye and Gap was rocky from the very beginning. Less than a month after announcing the partnership during his chaotic presidential campaign rally in South Carolina, Kanye expressed anger that he was not on the board of either Adidas or Gap, and he threatened to walk away, which led Gap's stock price to fall shortly after he had made it rise. But press is press, even if it comes from a public rant from Kanye during his run for president. And things eventually settled, with the collaboration going ahead as originally planned. Fans got the first glimpse of the items from the collection after Kanye was spotted rocking some of the designs in the months leading up to the release of his 10th studio album, Donda. And Kanye's perfect hoodie finally arrived in the fall of 2021, although it was priced at $90, not $60 like he had promised. But reviews for the hoodie were good, and fan expectations for the Yeezy Gap collaboration continued to grow. When the full collection finally dropped, it broke a record for the most sales of any Gap product in a single day. By January 2022, Kanye had brought a new partner into the fold by announcing the arrival of Yeezy Gap, engineered by Balenciaga. Ye's vision was to bring the world of high fashion to the masses by offering luxury garments at affordable prices. Kanye has always been a master of bringing high and low culture together, so many fans believe that this collaboration would be the culmination of his many years of work in the fashion industry. And while the project had been massively successful from a sales perspective, it seems as though Kanye still couldn't fully realize his creative vision. In September, Ye's lawyer sent a letter to Gap announcing an end to his partnership with the retail giant, even though the collaboration was initially supposed to extend through 2030. Leading up to the end of the partnership, Kanye went on one of his infamous social media rants, where he levied all kinds of accusations against the company. He accused Gap of stealing his designs and leaving him out of important meetings. He also complained about not having complete control over the prices and color selections and retail layouts in the Gap stores.
I wasn't able to set the actual price that I wanted for this collection. And then they actually took one of the shirts and sold it for $19.
So despite record-breaking sales, Ye and Gap just couldn't make it work, and they decided to part ways. In an email that was sent to staff, the CEO of Gap said, "While we share a vision of bringing high-quality, trend-forward, utilitarian design to all people, how we work together to deliver this vision is not aligned." And this isn't a new issue either. Kanye has been battling with clothing companies long before Yeezy even had a name. Years before his partnership with Adidas, Ye had a sneaker deal with Nike that began in 2009. During his time at Nike, Kanye created legendary designs that now fetch insane prices on the sneaker market for their scarcity and iconic looks. But like many of Kanye's brand partnerships, the deal eventually fell apart, ending in 2013 after the release of his Red October Air Yeezy 2s. Although Kanye described the split as heartbreaking, he claimed that Nike refused to pay him royalties for the shoe design and instead offered to donate some of the proceeds to a charity of his choice. He also complained that Nike's CEO Mark Parker refused to get on the phone with him, and that executives at Nike claimed they couldn't understand why the Yeezy sneakers were so popular in the first place. So Kanye chose to end the partnership and turned to Adidas instead because he felt their CEO was someone who allowed him to build something. It was right around this time that Kanye made his famous appearance on Sway to talk about his issues with Nike. He expressed his frustrations over the obstacles he faced in the fashion industry. And that's when Sway questioned why Kanye didn't just do it himself to avoid dealing with the large corporations that didn't understand his vision, which prompted one of Kanye's angriest and most famous outbursts of his entire career.
Why don't you empower yourself and don't need them and do it yourself?
How, Sway?
Take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway.
Kanye.
I've been doing this more than you.
Now, almost 10 years later, Kanye admits that distributing his products directly to the people rather than working with large multinational corporations was most likely the only viable path forward if he wanted to have creative control over the products. Just a few weeks before getting dropped from all of his deals, Kanye took an interview with Lindsay Davis on Good Morning America where he discussed a shift in his general business philosophy.
So Sway, almost 10 years ago, said, "Man, why don't you do it on your own?" Was he right?
You know what? I will go ahead and say Sway had the answer.
While getting dropped from every single deal and losing 95% of your net worth in just a week might be a death sentence for most people, Kanye seems to have a vision that is much more long-term and wide-ranging than just a contract with Adidas or Gap. He truly wants to change fashion forever, and that's why Yeezy might even have a future without the corporate backing. It's almost impossible to predict what might come next for the Yeezy brand. Although Kanye is clearly an innovative, creative mind, his recent outbursts have made him a complete outcast in the corporate world. Even if he continues to create innovative designs, there's no telling whether he'll be able to bring them to market at the same level without a giant machine behind him. The same giant machine who's taken his shoe off the shelves and removed his hoodies from the retail floors. However, he does still have a huge platform and a large group of diehard supporters who will buy anything he makes. So even if he's blacklisted from mainstream corporate partnerships, he may be able to go the direct-to-consumer route and cut out the middleman. He recently registered a trademark for a Yeezy Supply retail store, hinting that he might be preparing to open his own physical locations pretty soon. Whether he'll finally be free to create without limits limits or face the same roadblocks he has in the past is yet to be seen. But there's one thing I can say for certain. Kanye's fashion journey might be far from finished. In fact, what looks like his greatest loss could possibly end up opening a door to a whole new world for the Yeezy brand.